Hey, how you guys doing? Hope everyone's doing all right out there. Wanted to make a video here talking about two more ideas I have to help with taxes around here, to get you some tax relief once I'm elected to the Douglas County Commission. And I've talked in previous videos about my Tabor modified Tabor policy that I'd like to implement, and I've also talked about the $42 million savings account that the county has that I'd like to use and use as a refund as well. So go check those videos out. But for this video, I wanted to talk about two other items that I think could really help you, the taxpayer. Now, I know you're probably thinking like, hey, Justin, what are you just gonna just reduce all taxes and you're not gonna have any money at all to run the county? And no, I'm not saying that. But what I'm saying is, with these two taxes that are on the books that I'm going to talk about here in a second in this video, is I just think we need to revisit them. One of them in particular, was from 1994. It's the 1 cent sales tax. It's been on the books, like I said, since 1994. That's 30 years. Maybe we could revisit that to a certain degree, and I'll explain what I mean by that here in a second. And then the other one is the 0.25 cent mental health tax that has been on the books since 2019. So I think we need to take a look at those. And like I'm saying, I'm not saying let's reduce everything and then we don't have any money to run the county. I'm not saying that at all. I'm saying that there's a lot of money coming in and it's just sitting there. The county is just sitting on it. And you as a taxpayer, you're being asked to pay even more in taxes when we got surplus money just sitting there. And I'll go over that here in a second. So the other thing that I want to say is, if on election day you go in and you decide that you don't want to vote for me at all, or that you want to vote for Patrick Kelly, I just want you to remember that I'm coming up with some ideas, some serious ideas that I want to implement to help you out, to give you some relief when it comes to your financials. And if you don't want to vote for me because you don't like my long hair, you don't like my beard, you don't like the way I talk, you don't like the way that I've been portrayed in the papers and stuff like that, well, all I can tell you again is that enjoy the next 4 years of Patrick Kelly, because if you would have gone to the county commission meetings when they were discussing and then voting on the recent property tax increase, you wouldn't have seen any generation of new ideas. And you wouldn't have even seen any discussion amongst the commissioners on it. It was just a vote to increase, and then boom, they were done for the day. At least I'm trying to come up with some ideas, and I'm coming up with some ideas, and I will try to implement those ideas. So keep that in mind when you go to vote, that I'm actually coming up with some ideas that are designed to try and help you the taxpayer, and help you and your family. And to kind of get over yourself if you don't like me as a Republican or who I am, but at least I'm coming up with some ideas, and that's more than I can say about Democrat Patrick Kelly. All right, so that said, the first tax that I mentioned was that 1 cent sales tax that's been on the books since 1994. And on August 20th, LJ World wrote an article titled "A Dispute Over What Voters Were Told in 1994 May Stop County Residents from Getting Property Tax Relief Today." And in that article, the quote that they have here is, "The fund is projected to have about $1.5 million of expenses in 2022, yet county commissioners are budgeted to deposit an additional $4 million of sales tax revenues into the fund. That sort of thing has been happening for years, and as a result, the fund has a lot of cash sitting in it. The fund is projected to begin 2023 with $12.6 million of cash in it." Now, if that don't piss you off, I don't know what will. So, it's saying that it's been collecting all this money every year, and as a result, there's a lot of money that's just sitting in there unused, but yet they still went and raised your property taxes again this year. So you got that $42 million savings account that's in there. And then a separate one is this 1 cent sales tax that's got $12.6 million sitting in it, but yet they raise your taxes. And so in that article, they interviewed the county administrator. Her name's Sarah Plinsky, and she talked about how there's like this. She tried to fall back on this like 50-50 rule that was part of this campaign back in 1994, meaning that the county wouldn't spend more than 50% of the funds on operations of county government, and then the other 50% would go towards large capital projects. Now, LJ World pushed back on her and said, "Hey, let's see that evidence there of that 50-50." And then she immediately was like, "Oh, I guess it's not that there's evidence. It's just that that's the way things have always been done, and it was promised during the campaign." And they're like, "Well, let's see those promises." And she said, "Well, we don't have those promises. There's no evidence that those promises exist." So they've just been operating on this 50-50 idea, and pretty much for no reason. It's just kind of like one of those things is like, oh, that's the way we've always done it, so that's the way we got to keep doing it. And I don't like that, man. I don't buy that at all. I think that's a bunch of bullshit. I think we should take a look at that 1 cent sales tax. Now what I'd like to propose on that, what I'm all about is letting you all, the community, the voters, decide on that. So some ideas that that I'd like to come up with, or that I would like to propose in this, is to put it back on the ballot. And so I think there's some obvious things that we could talk about doing. So I think we could completely, one idea is we could completely eliminate that 1 cent sales tax. Now, originally, that 1 cent sales tax was proposed and voted on back in 1994 as part of jail expansion. Now, there were some other programs in terms of like Parks and Rec, which I think is, fine. We need to be funding Parks and Rec. But the jail expansion, from 30 years ago, and even if you look at the jail expansion, there were a lot of promises made, like it would be, the jail would have gone right next to the new courthouse, but that didn't happen. So, you got Sarah Plinsky trying to fall back on, well, the voters were promised that we wouldn't do 50, we do the 50-50 split, but the voters were also promised that it would go downtown next to the courthouse, and that didn't happen. So why don't they don't have to uphold that promise, but they want to uphold this, I guess this non-existent 50-50 split promise as well. So so I do think that we do need the money there for the Parks and Rec, but now you're being forced to pay 1 cent sales tax for this jail expansion from 30 years ago, and why? Basically, why? We should all be asking why. So again, one of the things I would propose that maybe we could vote on, put on a ballot, is to completely eliminate this 1 cent sales tax. Other things, if you all don't want to completely eliminate it, well, let's suspend it for 4 years. Let's suspend it for my term of 4 years on the county commission and see what happens over 4 years. Let's see how we're looking at that point. And what I mean by suspend it is let's get rid of it for 4 years and see what happens. The other thing, we could vote to reduce it. I could propose a reduction. You could go down to we could reduce it by 50%, reduce it down to a half cent, or let's reduce it by 3/4, go down to 0.25%, and see what happens. Or, also, and along the lines of what I've talked about with Tabor, I propose, we could vote on this as well, is let's cap how much the county can collect on that 1 cent sales tax, and anything over that tax, we'll just refund it to the taxpayers instead of it just letting it sit there, unused, unspent in these accounts, in these funds, and then every year you got to pay more in property taxes while that money is just sitting there. So, let's just cap that and give it back to you guys. So, something to think about. Along with that, the way that ballot measure was written back in 1994 was, it said that the government, the local county government, could basically do what they wanted with that fund, meaning that with that excess money that's sitting in those accounts, they could use that to bring down property taxes each year. But they didn't. They've left that money sitting there, just like with that $42 million rainy day fund, that savings fund. Same thing with this money sitting here as well. They could have used that money to lower your property taxes, but they didn't. And again, if you want to vote for Patrick Kelly, then go ahead, man. That's on you, man. That just does not make any sense at all. I think that would be a foolish idea. So you got a guy that's not looking out for your best interests at all, period. Not looking out for you at all. He knows all this money's sitting there, and he's still like, yep, let's vote to raise your property taxes. Why? That's up to you to figure out. All right, so the other thing, the other idea I have is on that 0.25 cent mental health tax, and that was voted on, put on the books in 2019. And so recently, Lawrence Times has written a couple of articles about how that money, well, not necessarily how that money's being spent, but that money is going towards mental health here, and that the mental health isn't, the mental health facilities aren't worth a shit, basically. So one of the articles from September 16th is titled, Tired of seeing friends and community members thrown into crisis, Bert Nash clients voice their concerns. And then another article on September 29th of this year is titled, Clients Offer Feedback on Bert Nash Community Mental Health Center in First of Two Public Listening Sessions. And basically those articles, talk about how, Bert Nash has been subpar, to put it mildly. They've been not doing what they should be doing. They haven't been providing the services that they should be providing. And so then I just asked, if we got this 0.25 sales tax and that some of that money is going to fund our mental health facilities around here and they're not doing what they should be doing to help people, why would we keep funding them? Why would we keep funding them? And so again, what I'd like to propose is very similar to the 1 cent sales tax. I'd like to give it back to the community, or I'd like to put the power back to the community to decide what they'd like to do with that sales tax there. And I'd like you all to be able to vote on it. So a couple of ideas, we could completely eliminate it, right off the bat. Let's just get rid of it. If that money is being wasted on these community health centers that aren't doing anything, why would we keep funding them? Another option again would be, let's suspend it for 4 years, the 4 years that I'm up there as county commissioner, and then we can evaluate it each year and then evaluate it at 4 years and see where we're sitting. Another idea is let's reduce it from 0.25. We could reduce it, in half or 3/4 again, and see what that gets. I don't think that these mental health facilities need all that money going towards them. And then of course we could also, I propose we could cap it, how much money the county can collect off that sales tax, and anything over that limit then gets refunded back to you, the taxpayers. And so, just another example of how piss poorly this money is being managed. LJ World wrote an article on September 28th of this year, just the other day. It was titled, Douglas County Leaders Hearing Questions About Why Crisis Center Isn't Open Yet. And so what that's about is, recently they had the Treatment and Recovery Center had their, quote unquote grand opening back in, I think it was June. The reason why I say quote unquote grand opening is it's still not open. So originally, the plan was that the construction would begin in 2020 and then it would be completed in 2021. Well, it didn't get completed until 2022 when they had their, quote unquote grand opening back in June. But even then, after touting it as this grand opening, it's still not open. So it was, construction was to begin in 2021 with the idea it would begin in that it would begin in 2020 and be completed in 2021. Well, then a year later, still in 2022, it's not open. And again, I go back to the question of, why are we giving so much money to these treatment facilities if they're not even doing what they're supposed to be doing? And again, I just got to ask, man, if this stuff don't make you mad, if this stuff don't make you start questioning what Patrick Kelly and these other Democrats are doing up there, and if it don't make you want to vote him out, then I guess maybe you just are you just like pain. I guess I don't know. It makes no sense why you'd want to keep him on there and reward him. I go back to, I made a video yesterday about Patrick Gotten Off Track Kelly and why I call him that, and that's exactly why. Sarah Plinsky was quoted in LJ World a couple months ago as saying when it came to their financial policies, they've gotten off track. And this is just another example of that, of how they just mismanage everything and they're just completely incompetent, and they just write these blank checks to these agencies around here and I guess feel good about themselves that they're actually doing something, but they're not producing results. And there's absolutely no accountability whatsoever from the local government on these agencies. And the reason why I like, one of the main reasons why I like putting this stuff back to a vote for you guys on how to spend that money is that you guys are the ones that are in charge, and that you hold the elected officials accountable on what they can do with that money. So that way, when these elected officials are thinking about giving money out to your tax money out to these agencies, they start to think twice and say, well, we need to hold these agencies accountable. Otherwise, the people, the voters aren't going to keep giving us the money to fund you guys. So, accountability and responsibility is what it's all about. All right, well, let me know what you guys think. Leave me some comments, and I appreciate you guys checking out my video. Make sure you like and subscribe to my channel. Have a good day.